Okay, go. Give me your intro.
Steve Austin. Oh, you got to say, give me an intro again. Wait a minute. Um,
Give me the
wait a
intro.
minute. Okay, I got it. You ready?
Yeah,
We have
give it
the
to me, Steve.
technology. We have the technology. Steve Austin, a $6 million man who is better than every human in every way. In 1975, $6 million was required to build a humanoid robot who was the future. Now, it barely gets you a wooden house with 2 bedrooms in a city in Australia. We've had a great reversal. First, a humanoid was 6 million, now it's a house. Things are back to front. If you think you can predict the future, technology, sociology, then fucking think again. Welcome to the futuristic.
This is the Futuristic episode 44, recording this on the 4th of August 2025, pre GPT 5, the days before GPT 5, which we're expecting to hit any day now. But it has been a big few weeks since we last talked on the show, Steve. You and I have talked off the show, off air, but
Yeah.
on air, it's been a while.
Private, old school.
What's Yeah, tell me. You've got big news, Steve. Tell me your big news. Let's start with that.
Okay. I bought a robot. It wasn't a $6 million man, Cameron. It was a $16,000 humanoid. Sexless as far as I know, but I could be surprised when it arrives. We don't know if it's going to have genitalia. We don't know. But I bought myself a K-bot robot, which is going to be delivered in December. Now, hey, we're still waiting on Elon's robo taxis while they're there now. So we don't know, but it's your first personal robot, open source, full stack in your hands. They've actually just got their second batch now. They're 11,000. Mine was 16,000 with a few upgrades. It was 18,000. $500 deposit. And Tom Macrocanis, my co-founder at Macro 3D, we want to code it to do trades work. That's the main thing. And also mow the lawns and do the dishes and fold the washing. So the robotics revolution, I call it the embodiment era of AI, is upon us. Wowee.
Wow. And you're going to take it on the road with you? Get it up on
Yeah.
stage?
Well, I want to.
Do a bit of a Abbott and Costello routine?
I would really love to do that. And I put on LinkedIn a picture of me taking it through the airport and sitting next to me on a plane and lying down and going through the metal detector. They're going to detect a lot of metal in there. I don't know if that'll wipe its memory or what will happen or whether it'll glitch out. But it'll be interesting, and I think they are coming. Unitree also announced...
You have to buy a seat?
Well, I don't
Do you
know.
have to buy a seat for it on
I
a
probably
plane, or do you
will
put it in
because...
cargo?
Well, you wouldn't be able to put it in cargo because of the lithium-ion batteries. So imagine you're going to have to buy a seat for it. Otherwise, that'd be robot discrimination, and we don't want that.
That'll be. I can't wait to see that. You're the first person in Australia to have a robot sitting beside you in first class.
First class. Okay.
Come on. Surely you only travel first class. You're Steve Sammartino, Australia's leading futurist.
I,
Nothing
I,
is too good
I travel business occasionally. It just depends on the client, really, to be honest with you.
on the gig.
Get the occasional upgrade.
Well, so let's talk about this in more detail. So you say it's open source.
Yes.
What is open source? The software or the hardware or both?
I think both. Again, this remains to be seen, but it comes with standard fittings and capabilities, but you can write code for it and show it.
Shouldn't you know before you bought it?
You should,
what
but
you're
the
actually
way
getting?
the tech world works is that you just buy things first and you cross your fingers, and they make promises they often don't keep, whether it's autonomous vehicles or any other elements. But
Right.
it's codable, and you can teach it things, and you can also teach it through code, but you can also do it verbally and visually, which is going to be the killer app on robots. I mean, one of the things that I really hope for is an open source movement within robotics. We don't want to have closed source. You need to be able to train it in your way, and maybe even sell the skills that you've trained your robot. I think that's a great idea. Yours might be the best car washer, or the best on a work site, or the best warehouse worker. I think that's really important to get an extension of our skills based on what we teach it. Yeah, you could have the Stevie skill that for gardening goes around the world. I just downloaded the Stevie gardening app for my humanoid robot, and it's the best one. And we might get like a whole new app economy where human skills, which are incredibly varied across all the gamut of things that we do physically, that I think that's a really big opportunity, but it can only happen in an open source world.
I think that seems to be the model that Jensen Huang at NVIDIA is pushing them into, is to make the software free and open source because he wants to sell the chipset that runs the robots.
Yeah.
So I do think that will be one of the models that's out there. There might be some that are closed and some that are open. Well, that's very exciting, Steve. That's really huge. Do you know of anyone else in Australia that has a humanoid robot?
I've seen a few out with gigs, but all of them seem to be pre-programmed. I've seen quite a few of the Boston Dynamics ones, the Dogs and the Atlas, but they're all pre-programmed to do certain things. Unitree just launched a new one which looks absolutely incredible. It was under 20,000 as well, which is very aligned with Jensen Huang. 2 years ago, we spoke about him saying by the end of this decade they'll cost less than a small car and we'll all have them. That seems to be very on track. Their capability, we don't know, and we don't know how much of
Unitree
what
are a
we see.
Chinese operation, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Kbot is
So,
American, which
yeah.
is rare and good. I think because you want to have
Is
as
it?
many countries. Well, I think you want to have as many countries as possible with this capability. I think.
Right.
No, this is not a China
So,
versus America. It's just you want as many as possible.
right. Yes, they'll be the two main countries producing them, I imagine. Be interesting to see how it plays out in the tariff wars
That's right.
too, getting a robot from China versus a robot from the US.
And
Well,
yeah, I think that Trump, for other reasons, is tapped into something that's going to happen, which deglobalization and reshoring and onshoring. All of my clients are talking about securing up their supply chain to nearshore and reshore with the ability of AI and robotics. Not just those that we're making, but then those ones that we make can actually help production locally as well.
but China is going to be the dominant manufacturer of humanoid robots, I imagine. So,
I think so too. And I think it's not because they're more capable. I think it's because America and other Western markets have systematically eroded their own supply chain of all the, I'm going to call it bits and bobs that went into cars and washing machines and all of that stuff, where they no longer have it. And it's not that we don't have the capability to design and make them work, it's that we don't have all of the small pieces that go into any form of machinery in our local markets like we did in the 70s and the 80s.
I think China is making a massive commitment to leading the world in AI and robotics, though, at a governmental level. They're going to think everything behind it. And I don't think the US is going to be able to compete, quite frankly. But we'll see how it plays out. Well, I haven't bought a robot, Steve, but I did do my first experiment with ChatGPT's new agent that came out a few weeks ago. Now, at the end of last year, when we predicted what the big story for 2025 would be, we both said AI agents would be the big thing. Didn't make us that original. Everyone in the industry was predicting that. But I did get my ChatGPT agent up and running and did a project which I've tried to code over the last year or so several times unsuccessfully. And this was a project involved with my investing podcast, QAV, to basically go out and find a list of companies on the ASX, look up the investor relations page on their website, download their most recent annual report or half yearly report, find the independent auditor's report in that document, and read it and see whether or not the company has a qualified audit. Now, for people that aren't investors, a qualified audit means an audit where the auditor's gone, this company has some problems, so we're qualifying the green tick that we're giving the audit. And that, for us as investors, that's an issue. If the auditor's picked out that there's some serious fiscal concerns with the company, we want to know about that before we invest in it. I've tried to code it, hasn't worked, too complicated, got Agent to do it. It seemed to work. And then I asked it to create a spreadsheet of the results, give me the name of the company, whether or not it has a qualified audit, and then a link to the most recent financial report so I could check it. When I gave it a list of companies that I knew had a qualified audit, it gave them all a clean bill of health. And then I went and double checked it and found that a couple of them did not get a clean bill of health, and said to the agent, hey, how come you gave this one a clean bill of health? And went, oh, yeah, sorry, in retrospect, rereading that, I shouldn't have done that. So that was completely useless. But it at least managed to get 90% of the way there, just hallucinated on the important bit. So that was a fail. So anyway, it's a good first step. It was easy to get it up and running as an agent. It could go out, find the websites, get the report. At least the links to the reports were right. It just didn't do a very good job of reading and analyzing it. But I think, we're getting there. It's a step in the right direction. The other thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned to me a Kevin Kelly book, The Inevitable, from 2016, which I downloaded and started reading over the last couple of days.
Oh, good.
Well, yes, but hilarious. Now, Kevin Kelly, a guy that we both admire, been fans of Kevin Kelly for 30 years, talked about him a lot on this show. My entire podcasting business model was based on stuff that he wrote about in the early 2000s. And in this book, in the first couple of chapters, he's predicting the future of AI and what it would possibly look like and how it would roll out. This is in 2016. 9 years ago, this book came out. Hilarious how outdated it already is. And this
wow,
guy,
I haven't revisited it, but I remember it astounded me, and I was thinking of the last chapter. But tell me,
I haven't got to the last chapter yet. Well, I will at the end of the show, or when we get to Technology Time Warp. He talks a lot about IBM's Watson, and I was like, oh my God, whatever happened to Watson? Haven't heard of Watson for years. So when we get to the Technology Time Warp, I'll talk about IBM Watson and what happened to them. But, he talks about AI and sort of talks about it sort of happening 20 years from now, from when he wrote it in 2016. He's sort of thinking of a 2035, 2040 timeline. And what it might look like, and it was built around the idea of the what we call GoFi now, good old fashioned AI, the symbolic AI approach that they took with IBM Watson, which has now become really clunky and out of date. However, I think is going to make a comeback too. So with a hybrid between LLMs and GoFi, which I'll talk about later on in the show.
So just on that point, and in relation to your use of the agent, a really clever friend of mine, Nick Hodges, who I might have mentioned on the show before.
Hey, I know Nick.
Yeah, super
the
clever
old friend
guy.
of mine, old Microsoft guy.
Was he at Microsoft? This Nick wasn't, but maybe he was.
Oh,
maybe
different Nick Hodges. Okay.
Nick Hodges.
Could be a different
anyway, all the Nicks out there. A friend of mine, David Brown, started a Twitter group with everyone called David Brown on Twitter, which I love.
David Brown.
Yeah, don't know him. Which one? He wrote a post a few weeks ago saying that the challenge, because of the probabilistic nature of connectionist AI, which is the opposite of symbolic AI, is what he calls the takeoff and landing problem. And so when you're in cruising altitude and you're working on something, the AI is amazing, but getting it to start, it obviously can't start itself. It needs a lot of direction and nurturing, but also bringing in the project to completion to finish off those rounded edges. It needs the human attachment as well. And it's a really great analogy, the takeoff and landing problem. And I do wonder if that's at all solvable. And I'm starting to get suspicious that it won't be. That the nature of the models on probability means that how you start and end something is really, really different to the middle of a project. And so it can't quite get that learning, and the guesses that it needs to take at those edges is why you might need symbolic code and get that hybrid model to come in and around it to make it work. And I've found that same problem when I've been doing some vibe coding with some AI tools for clients where it hasn't really worked in that way. So that is, I agree with you. We'll get to that.
Vibe coding.
I like the word. I just want to use it as much as possible.
People call it vibe coding. For me, it's just coding. It's just, it's coding with AI.
Are you, are you vibe reading and vibe listening to music?
Yeah, right. It's ridiculous. All right, so let's get into some of the big news stories, Steve. I think ChatGPT Agents, so they launched that on the 18th of July, so 2 and a bit weeks ago. Probably the biggest story. ChatGPT 5 is due out this month. Sam did a sneaky little Twitter post or X post today with a screenshot of him having a conversation in GPT-5. But Agent has been the biggest release that they've come out with since our last show. Have you played around with the Agent much?
A
Had
little.
any success?
A little.
Tell me about your Agent experience.
I found the takeoff and landing really hard. I've asked it to do a few things for me, and it's been so much effort to get it off the ground and starting to do the thing that I wanted to do and setting the parameters. I've found that it's not too dissimilar from giving detailed briefing and instructions inside the traditional prompt framework so far.
Well, let me read from OpenAI's blog post from the 18th of July. ChatGPT now thinks and acts proactively, choosing from a toolbox of agentic skills to complete tasks for you using its own computer. ChatGPT can now do work for you using its own computer, handling complex tasks from start to finish. You can now ask ChatGPT to handle requests like, look at my calendar and brief me on upcoming client meetings based on recent news, plan and buy ingredients to make Japanese breakfast for 4, and analyze 3 competitors and create a slide deck. ChatGPT will intelligently navigate websites, filter results, prompt you to log in securely when needed, run code, conduct analysis, and even deliver editable slideshows and spreadsheets that summarize its findings. At the core of this new capability is a unified agentic system. It brings together 3 strengths of earlier breakthroughs: operators' ability to interact with websites, deep researchers' skill in synthesizing information, and ChatGPT's intelligence and conversational fluency. ChatGPT carries out these tasks using its own virtual computer, fluidly shifting between reasoning and action to handle complex workflows from start to finish, all based on your instructions. Nice in theory. I've only done the one experiment, which was not entirely successful. I know my boys, Hunter and Taylor, have been playing with it quite a bit. Taylor upgraded to a Plus subscription. No, a Pro subscription, a couple of $100 a month one, so we could really run it through, because you only get a certain amount of credits on the normal subscription. And they also found it useful in ways, but also flaky in ways. And I think they've terminated their experiments with it. I haven't seen a lot of people excited about what it can do in the subreddits and online. Like you can get it to log in and research people in LinkedIn and get their email addresses and send them emails, log into your emails and that kind of stuff. But again, it's a step in the direction. And later on in the show, I'll take you through a scenario that I wrote over the weekend about what I think the process of buying a car might look like a couple of years from now, which is based largely around agents doing a lot of the work for you. So I think this is a step towards that future, but has some ways to go before it's really that useful as a tool.
I think that Sam Altman's quote that you read out before is not too dissimilar from what we already have just via a prompting process inside the searchability. I agree that the ability to write code, the ability to surf websites and do all of those things are still there. But if you just went in and said, book me a holiday, I don't think it has enough access to what your preferences are or the memory or your internal files to actually be able to come back with something that you would sign off on. So far,
Well,
to me,
it
it
asks you
seems
questions first.
Right. And it can do that in the non-agent mode already. And it already makes suggestions at the
Right.
end of each post. It sort of says, do you want me to put this into a PowerPoint that you can... It does all of those things now. So I feel like, again, the takeoff and landing isn't there.
Yeah, like now it can, in theory, log into websites for you, like log into your calendar, log into your email, create things, do things, which it wasn't very good at doing before.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think this is a hint at where we're going to be a couple of years from now, but a lot of work to be done to make it reliable. I mean, with the
Yep.
stuff I was doing, completely useless if the answers it's giving back to me are hallucinated. So and I think that's true with a lot of this stuff now. And while it's still full of holes and needs human checking, kind of pointless.
Mm. Yeah.
Easier to just get humans to do it.
Well, and often with some things, if a human needs to check it, that's the same as doing it. Not with administrative work in a corporate setting, but in a technical setting, which I've been working on with clients where we get AI to develop some stuff, specifications, which you can't have an error in there. 95% is the same as zero, because if you've got to check it all and find a hallucination, which could end up with a bad calculation. And this is where symbolic code's really important. You can't have errors.
Steve, I saw you did a blog post recently about whether or not AI is going to take all of our jobs, and you said you weren't that worried about it. You're more worried about AI just taking over humanity as the dominant species. But Microsoft released a study about a week ago called Working with AI, Measuring the Occupational Implications of Generative AI. I also saw in the Financial Review this morning, the Federal Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, had a post, an article talking about all of the great stuff the federal government's doing with AI and how he doesn't think it's a problem for jobs. We're going to take the middle path, like we have any control over what path we take.
Mm.
But Microsoft has come up with this list of the 40 jobs most at risk of being replaced by AI and the 40 jobs least at risk of being replaced by AI. The top 40 occupations with highest AI applicability score, most at risk, sorted alphabetically: advertising sales agents,
Yep.
archivists, broadcast announcers and radio DJs. Glad they left podcasters out of that. I'm safe. Hooray. Brokerage clerks,
Yeah.
business teachers, post-secondary, CNC tool programmers,
Yep.
concierges, counter and rental clerks,
Wait a minute.
customer service.
A concierge kind of at a hotel, human in greeting someone doing whatever. I totally disagree with that, but anyway.
Yeah. Customer service representatives, data scientists, demonstrators and product promoters,
I thought you meant the
economics
ones on the
teachers,
street,
post-secondary,
demonstrators. I thought you meant the ones on the street waving flags and placards. Sorry.
like the 100,000 in
Yes.
Sydney on the weekend. Yeah. Editors, farm and home management educators, geographers, historians, hosts and hostesses, interpreters and translators, library science teachers, post-secondary, management analysts, market research analysts, mathematicians, just straight up mathematicians, you're all out of work,
Maybe.
models,
Maybe.
because we can
Well,
just create AI models now.
yeah, the one who was at Wimbledon, she
New
was pretty
accounts
hot, wasn't she?
clerks.
She was hot, the one at Wimbledon, wasn't she?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, there was a model went viral because it wasn't a real model and she was all cruising around Wimbledon.
News analysts, reporters, journalists, passenger attendants, personal financial advisors, political scientists, proofreaders and copy markers, public relations specialists, public safety telecommunications, sales representatives of services, statistical assistants, switchboard operators, technical writers, telemarketers, telephone operators, ticket agents and travel clerks, web developers and writers and authors.
Did you read out all of them?
That's the top 40.
Okay, so can I just cut straight to it?
You can.
Yes, the top 40, most of those are at risk. But I think they were at risk before we had the generative AI boom. Most of the things on there, software could already do in most capacities. I think. A large majority of those. Google Translate's been killer for a really long time. Editor, yeah, it's a bit better now. You can throw it into GPT and get a better version and prompt it. But I think a lot of those were already at risk. And I don't think a lot of those are driven by generative AI.
Right.
So
Okay.
I feel like the technology has been attached to a general movement which has already been well underway pre-generative AI.
I'm going to point out what I think are some of the gaps here. Like they mention specific teachers, like economics teachers, library science teachers, etc., etc. I think just teachers in general are at risk. You know, I've written a couple of posts about this recently. I think when kids have the greatest teacher of every subject ever on
Mm.
their phone or their laptop or their iPad, it's going to not get rid of schools as such. You still need a place to send your kid and they'll still need adult supervision, but I'm not sure that teachers, as we think of them, are what role they're really going to play when the AI is a better teacher than the human, more patient, understands the child better, has access to the kids' emails, chat messages, listens to all of its conversations with its friends, understands its neurodiversity and its preferred learning modalities, knows what movies it's watching, music it's listening to, books it's reading, podcasts it's listening to, in a way that a human teacher could never hope to do. It's going to be able to customize teaching to every kid's requirements. I just don't know how humans are going to compete. But anyway, and we've got a guest coming on the show in a few weeks, old friend of mine, Nick, who's the principal of a large private school here in Queensland, and very progressive guy, very tech savvy, science savvy guy. He's going to come on and we're going to talk about it from his view as the principal of a private school, where he thinks AI is going to lead. But anywho, what do you think about the list of occupations with the lowest AI applicability score? Automotive glass installers and repairers, bridge and lock tenders, cement masons and concrete finishers, dishwashers. I mean, to me, these are all easy robot replacements,
Yeah, they
right?
are.
Maybe not AI software, but robots with AI.
Yeah, robots.
Floor sanders and finishers, robot.
Robot.
Foundry mold and core makers, robot.
Robot.
Gas pumping station operators,
Robot.
robot. Painters, plasterers,
Robot,
production workers,
robot,
roofers,
robot,
robot.
robot. If a human can do
Industrial
it,
truck and tractor operators.
everyone misses
Yeah, yeah.
this. Everyone, including Jeffrey Hinton, who said go out and be a plumber in a recent interview. And I wrote a post about why the godfather of AI was wrong. And I'm, of course, right, Cameron. I was correct and he's wrong. Is because I think everyone is missing the embodiment moment. When AI gets an embodiment where the visual, verbal, contextual learning can be taught to something that has a physicality to it, all of those tasks that everyone says, oh, well, because, it's a one-off and it's nuanced and every task changes. I think they're all missing the robotic part of this, and I think they're overestimating the ability of humans who want humans to do things with them where they involve communication and human nuance. We actually want it. And my view is that the most important jobs are going to be the ones we pay for because a human is doing it, not because an AI can't. And I think with the physical tasks where you're not really interacting with someone, you're interacting with stuff. You're a lines person or a plumber or whatever. No one even sees or cares what you're doing. They just want it done. Honestly, I think the blue-collar trade and technical stuff is going to get humanoided far quicker than a lot of the office stuff is. And there's another reason why. People like building empires inside corporations and having people under their control. That's a big part of what happens in corporations. People like shaking hands and being in charge and impressing other humans. And I'm convinced that 80% of what happens in large corporations now is already unnecessary and we don't need it. It's all bullshit and layers of bullshit of people talking to each other on presentations and meetings about meetings. And none of that's based on efficiency or requirements. That's all just based on power and control and subservience. So that'll continue. Whereas a lot of the technical tasks will be outsourced to humanoid robots, which are getting very close to that capability. They already understand it technically, verbally, visually. All you need to do is put that into a consistent humanoid that has a large battery life and dexterity. And we're very close to that.
Here's my pushback on the corporate bureaucracy kind of thing. Shareholders, and I'm talking about your large, activist shareholder groups, are going to be saying to publicly listed corporations, why aren't you using AI more to reduce your workforce? We're already getting stories. Atlassian's just laid off a bunch of people. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they're all laying off thousands and thousands of employees and up front saying we're replacing them with AI. It's happening across the board. It's happening in Australia as well as overseas already. There was an article from McKinsey I read this morning in the Wall Street Journal saying that AI is an existential risk to them and all consultants. They're laying off people as well and replacing them with AI agents. Shareholders will be saying to boards, executive teams, why aren't you laying off more people and replacing them with AI? So these little fiefdoms inside corporations aren't going to be safe from shareholders. It's like, why aren't you replacing half of your employees with AI is an easy thing for shareholders to say. Why aren't you replacing them with a custom-built software system? Not so easy to say as an activist shareholder because you don't understand necessarily what's available and how hard it is to build a customized software system, etc., etc. But why aren't you replacing these people with AI and saving us gajillion dollars in costs and putting it through to the bottom line and dividends or capital reimbursement, etc., is an easy thing for shareholders to push on boards. And it's going to be very difficult, I think, increasingly for boards to, avoid those sorts of conversations. The shareholders don't give a crap about the bureaucracies. They want the money.
Of course they don't. Easy to say, harder to do than it is to say. I think a lot of the idea that you can just remove people and just put in an AI without the edge cases being solvable in the same way that agentic AI can do stuff self-directed right from the start, unless that can happen, I don't think it will. If agentic AI gets to the point where it does what it's meant to do, it interprets the requirements before the project has started and can do it, then that can happen. Until that agentic AI is really working, we won't see the mass cut of full-time employees. I don't think.
I give that a couple. Yeah, I agree with you, but I give that a couple of years. A couple of years from where we are now, based on the progress.
I think it might not. It might not happen. That 5% might never be solved. I'm wondering if that's always going to be a little bit like an airplane where apparently, Cameron, you should be able to fly to London in 1 hour in a supersonic plane. And then we just got to a point where there was a maxed out limit of what was economic and maybe we'll end up there.
What people are willing to pay for. Yeah.
Also, it might just be that this is a productivity unlock. So one of the thoughts that I have is it is better to have a corporate fiefdom where we finally get some productivity enhancements, which the Western world hasn't done very well in the last couple of decades. Australia's got very low productivity per person. If all of a sudden you can get through 3 weeks of work in 1 week or whatever the ratio happens to be, that can enhance employability because the productivity in getting things done might be a lot quicker. And if people are more productive and there's more output for the company, then it almost becomes an accelerator of having more people who can control an AI that becomes like their staff doing a number of things, and they're the orchestrators of AIs doing things with the onboarding and offboarding, the takeoff and landing element. So there's a chance that that happens. But the technology implementation in corporations is so slow. I'm working with these guys every week, and they're still talking about what they can do and why and where. And I always harken back to the idea that we could have been doing a million things with video that we didn't do until COVID. The classic example is seeing the doctor. There was a 10-year lag on capability and implementation.
Yeah. No, you make good points. There are economic and bureaucratic hurdles always in place of rolling out this sort of stuff. People get in the way. Well, that's a couple of news stories for the week. Steve, do you want to move into deep dive and time warp?
Sure, let's do it.
So, I'm in the process of launching my AI consulting business, Intelletto, which is Italian for intellect. And part of what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks is thinking through, the sort of questions that I want to be asking clients. And, I think the biggest question in my mind for most organizations, whether they're businesses or government organizations or any other kind of organization, is what does the world look like a few years from now when your customers, your employees, your suppliers, your partners, your competitors have unlimited intelligence available at their fingertips? And particularly starting with customers. What does it look like when your customer knows as much about your product and service as you do and can see through all of the sales and marketing and PR bullshit immediately? So I've been exploring some scenarios and writing some stuff about it for the website. One of the ones that I was working on over the weekend was, what does buying a car look like in that world? I was thinking about big tickets. So what led to this? I was at the supermarket on the weekend. I'm doing my grocery shopping at Coles. And I was looking at some Nescafe instant espresso liquid in a bottle thing that was on sale. And so I pulled out GPT and I said, look, have a look at this thing. Got the camera on it, right? Have a look at this. Is this more cost effective than buying a bag of beans and doing my own grinding and blah, 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 blah? And it talked through the cost effectiveness of it with me. And then I said, look up the reviews for this Nescafe product. And it said, yeah, the reviews are pretty shit, basically. It says it doesn't taste like real coffee. It's weak. It's, not as flavorful, et cetera, et cetera. Cheaper, faster, but not as good. Then I was going to buy a bag of peanuts because I've been making my own peanut butter for a while, and it was $20 a kilo at Coles for peanuts, just peanuts in a bag versus buying pre-made peanut butter. So again, I was like, okay, peanut butter, jar of peanut butter, 750 grams is like $10. Buying peanuts, raw peanuts, is $20 a kilo. Is there any justification for making my own peanut butter? GPT's taken me through the cost benefit analysis and said, no, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous price. And it said, in fact, don't go to Coles. Don't buy your peanut butter at Coles. Go to Aldi.
Yeah.
It's like a fraction of the price at Aldi, right? So it's talking.
And it's the same stuff. Because legally, peanut butter has to have 93% peanuts. Otherwise, it's not peanut butter. Because I was a peanut butter brand manager for Kraft Peanut Butter.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's how I know.
Years ago. So, and then I was just had it on in the shopping aisle. I'm asking you about all these products that I'm looking at. What about this? What do you think about that brand versus this brand? It's talking me through my grocery list.
That is a massive viral video idea. You get Taylor to film that, you doing that as your launch to Intelletto, and you go and just say shopping with an AI agent. I'm telling you now, that is 1 million views. And I know a thing about getting millions of views
in
now.
LA now, but yeah, no, I am going to do that.
You should do it. It's huge, because if you don't, I'll steal it.
I'll do it.
Good.
But then I was thinking about big ticket items like buying a car, buying a house. How does AI play into that? So here's the scenario. I'll just talk you through it. I won't read the whole thing, but so imagine let's say you've been thinking about buying a new car. Let's say it's 2, 3, 4 years in the future. You put on your AI enabled glasses one Saturday morning and you say, "Hey, I've decided to press the button on the new car." It already knows you. It knows what you've been talking about. It says, "Okay, I'll put together a short list for you." And it comes up with, based on your budget, based on your requirements, the size of your family, etc. It says, "Look, I found a new one at a dealership that I can book an appointment for you to go and have a test drive today. I've also found a second-hand vehicle that looks pretty good. We can go take a look at that." You go, "Yeah, set up the meeting." So it contacts the dealership, it contacts the private seller, and it sets up appointments for you, slots it into your diary. You go to the dealership and you sit down with the salesman after you take a test drive, and you say to him, "Hey, listen, before we get started, I just want to let you know that my AI assistant is going to be sitting in on this. Are you okay with that?" And he's like, "Okay, I guess." And you say, can you verbally, he just nods, you go, "Can you verbally consent to my AI sitting in on this call?" Which he does. It's in your glasses. And so it's listening to all of the claims he's making about the car, the pricing, the financing, the whole deal. And it's running as a live bullshit detector for everything that he's saying. And it's talking, you can either have it on the desk, but that might be a little bit confronting. So it's in your ears. You've got your like meta
Yeah.
style glasses. It's coming up on the screen. It's talking in your ears. It's going, "No, no, that's bullshit. Don't listen to that. That does, ask him for more details on that because that doesn't check out." He's trying to jack up different value added things. And he go, "No, no, no. I can see another car at another dealership 5 minutes away where I can go get it without all that kind of bullshit. I could just walk." So it's acting as a real time bullshit filter on the car salesman, verifying all of his claims, not letting him get away with any nonsense. Then you go to the private seller. You have your glasses on when you're inspecting the car. It's looking for any signs of damage. It's looking at the engine. It's already checking the VIN number. It's checking the history of the car. You pull out the service book. It says, ask the seller if it's okay for me to contact his service center to verify the service records. You ask him. He says, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." Your AI contacts the AI customer service front end at the car service center, says, "My owner is looking at buying this car. Service records indicate you've been servicing it for the last couple of years. Would I be able to confirm the service history with you?" The AI on the customer on the service center's end says, "Well, due to privacy concerns, I'll need to get approval from the owner of the car. Tell him to check his phone. I'm about to send him a message." You tell the guy, message pops up, "Will you approve that I can reveal this information?" He clicks yes, and it confirms the service record of the car. Also, they say, "Listen, we're willing to back up this car. So if there's anything that isn't uh, contained within the service record that we're about to send to you, we'll cover it free of charge for the next 6 months," or something like that. You renegotiate the price based on some stuff that you found in the service record with him. It does up a new contract for you, sends it to the guy. It's already in pre-negotiation stage with 8 finance companies to get you the best deal. Once you've decided to go ahead, it locks in the best deal with the best finance company. It registers the vehicle. It changes the details with your insurance company, and it's done and dusted, and it's all AI driven. So this idea of having an AI assistant with you when you're doing these big ticket item purchases, I think is going to revolutionize that side of buying and selling big ticket items within a few years.
That's a brilliant synopsis, Cam. What I'm hopeful for is that this is something that can be augmented by someone who's been in car sales for a lot of years or in purchasing, who can work with the GPT to write the code and the software and direct the pathways, almost like an architecture of what that could look like, and be able to automate that process and potentially have a whole, let's call it GPT economy, which hasn't quite spawned yet, even though OpenAI has tried to do it, where there's new forms of AIs that can do that? Or, Cam, and I want your view on this, is this something that your personal AI just does intuitively because it's a multimodal AI that gets your situation, and knows what to do? And we actually have a general AI that just does everything. You don't need those specific ones anymore.
Yeah, well, when I was writing this article, I said to GPT, what are the 5 most common ways that car dealers rip people off, stitch people up in the process?
Well, they've got a
And it gave me
mustache
a
on.
list.
The mustache is the first thing. When you see the guy in a brown sort of plaid suit with a mustache, like the movie The Big Steal for any old Australian listeners, you come in there and there's a different motor in the car, and the one he sells you, and then when he delivers it, it's all changed up. And
So I think the AIs will be smart enough to be able to know, because it's reading everything that's published out there about these sorts of things, so it
yeah,
can give you the things to look out for, and it can be looking out for them for you. There may be opportunities for customized symbolic rules in there, but I think LLMs are going to be able to do a
I
lot of
think so
that just
too. I
straight out
don't
of the
think you're going to need
box.
specific. I think you'll have your personal AI, which can help you with looking for a house, a car, a university to study at, cooking, all of those things. But this trajectory is one that we've been on for a long time, Cam. A friend of mine was a car sales guy about 20 years ago when carsales.com.au and the equivalents around the world arrived, where you could see cars online and research. And he said that it got to a point where he used to know more about all of the cars on the yard, but someone would study that specific car, every detail on it, and there was no way that he could possibly know more than a consumer within that car. And they learnt all of the tricks. So they were doing a human version of what you've just described, but this would put it on steroids. If you had an AI,
Yeah.
it wouldn't just be your research, which is still better than the person selling you the car, because you've really drilled down onto your needs, and they have to be across the whole car yard. And I think it does remove some of that complexity and chicanery of buying things that you don't buy all that often.
All the stuff I see people, when I'm reading AI posts, and there's these AI conferences happening everywhere, and they're talking about how it's going to be so great for sales people in sales and marketing, AI, because you're going to be able to get all of this intel on your customers, and you're going to be able to segment your markets, and you're going to be able to do all this kind of stuff on a new level. And I'm calling bullshit on all of that. I think AI is going to cut through all of the bullshit of sales and marketing. And it was interesting to see that Microsoft had put down sales and marketing people as one of the jobs that's most at risk from AI, because the customers are just going to be able to see through all of the sales and marketing bullshit. And it's going to be able to do, the agents are going to be able to research everything. Like, imagine even buying white goods. You need a new fridge, you need a new dishwasher, you need a new, clothes dryer.
Well,
Just to be able to say to your AI, based on my family and what we need, tell me which one I should get and find me the best price and get it
right.
delivered for me.
But there is a delineation, Cam. And yes, AI will be able to filter through the bullshit that comes from marketing and sales guys. But there's a two-speed economy. One of those is with rational purchases. Okay, and when it comes to rationality, I think the AI will be able to do that. But often, and often in the more profitable areas, they're emotional purchases. We're actually looking for a reason from a human to justify spending an inordinate amount of money on a premium car that isn't as good as a
That's when your
Toyota.
AI will step in and go, hey, don't do that. You can't afford it.
Yeah, but you don't care. Like, you've already got your brother and your sister and your dad telling you can't afford it, you don't need it. And yet we buy things we don't need because we're irrational beings. Emotional purchases.
That's true. Yeah.
Emotional purchases, AI isn't going to solve that problem. You're actually looking for a reason to justify the decision you've made
Right.
in your head
That's
for other reasons, right?
why
And
people invest in Bitcoin.
I make a lot of irrational
There's no rational
purchases.
reason to buy Bitcoin.
Well, there's no rational reason to buy a very large majority of the things that we do, but we're irrational beings. And
Yeah, that's
why
true.
you're buying something and why a human is doing something is going to be more important than what the human is doing. Why? And often I think we will want humans to do things, and the important thing is that a human is doing it, even if it could be done by a machine.
Yeah. I mean, I can see an element of that playing out. I'm not sure how much of the marketplace is going to care that much, but we'll see.
Well, it does in certain areas. I would love to know what percentage of purchases, and even in supermarkets, it happens too, where you think it's a highly rational place, but there's a lot of emotional purchases that happen in a supermarket where you buy premium goods and pay twice as much for ice cream than you otherwise would. Does it really taste better? I don't know. Some foods are better and more premium, but a lot of things aren't. And so I'd like to know what percentage of the economy is emotional purchases and what are rational. And that would be different with different people. One thing I think we
So
should
today, when I'm at, sorry,
keep
go.
going. I was going to say the one thing that
No, I thought you were finished.
we can explore next time is the idea of what I'm calling the robot economy. Like, what will we spend on because robots are there? And do robots need certain things to serve them? And I'm thinking about humanoid robots. What does that build? And the thing that I'm hearkening back to is that there was really no nighttime economy before the early 1900s when electricity became commonplace. There was only local communities where you'd go to an inn or a pub, and there wasn't much of a nighttime
Brothel.
economy. It was really hard to get around and get to places and places to be warm and have electricity. And that's an extraordinary part of our economy this day. And I really am seriously thinking about that robot element. I want to explore that idea of what the robot economy looks like, what things arrive in support of that new ecosystem.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's
Got that down.
schedule that for next time. Yeah. Um, I was going to say back to the supermarket story. Like when I go to the supermarket now and I have my phone out, or I have just talking to it on my AirPods, hey, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that.
Mm.
I'm thinking about a world where we are running AI enhanced glasses with a camera. So it's
Mm.
seeing everything that I'm looking at. So you're talking about buying the premium ice cream.
Yeah.
It'll be seeing what you're picking up and it'll be going, yeah, you want my advice on that? Don't get that one. It's overpriced. The reviews are shit. Get the other one that's a door down. It's just as good, half the price, less sugar. It'll be talking in your ear. Some people won't care. Some people will. But increasingly, I think people are going to be using their AI to save them money, particularly when they're losing their job to AI. They're going to
But
be
much of the
they're going to
taste, let's go to taste. Much of the taste is the perception you have in your mind while you're consuming it. Because you paid more, it means more to you. This is commonplace with champagne and wine and ice cream and many other products, where even in private
cigars.
consumption scenarios, you will convince yourself that it is better because you paid more. And so then we open up two other ideas on this supermarket: private and public consumption. Many of the products we know we're getting ripped off on, but we want to serve to others or have others see us wearing, and brands are a classic example. I'm wearing the branded jacket or what have you, or I'm consuming because it's a display of success and my position in society and which cohort I move with. I'm a surfer, I'm a skateboarder, I'm a whatever. So that still exists as well. So you're going to have emotional consumption, rational consumption. Then you're going to have private consumption, public consumption. But even in some private consumption, you're competing with your own mind, which wants you to believe that spending more is deserved upon you because you work hard and you're looking for those moments of joy and little dopamine hits. So I think that the rational AI helping us will be there and will be an element, but I think this is far more complex than we think.
You're making a lot of great points, but getting back to the questions that organizations need to be asking themselves right now is what kind of impact is this going to have on my business 2, 3 years from now
Yes.
when my customers, employees, partners, suppliers, competitors have access to unlimited intelligence?
Right. And so they'll need to ask themselves, where do we strip out the bullshit because that game is up? And where do we lean into the
Yeah.
emotional and irrational side of the consumption pattern because that's something that is
Yeah.
infallible, and a perfect all-knowing AI isn't necessarily going to sway a decision. So then you get a new decision template within corporations to understand where they sit in private and public consumption, irrational and rational, in the person's mind and the other. So you get a whole new consumer dynamic.
Well, with that, let me get to the last segment of the show, Steve, I wanted to talk about, which is IBM and Watson speaking about emotional decisions. And I thought I'd do something different with this. I'm going to go into NPR mode. I've written this as a narrative rather than just a ramble. So I'm going to put on my NPR voice, Steve,
Love.
and or whatever the Australian equivalent is, PBS maybe. Hello, boys and girls. Let's go back to the mid '90s. You're sitting in front of a bulky CRT monitor. The internet is new. The future feels digital, but not quite real yet. And then this headline hits: IBM supercomputer defeats world chess champion. That champion, Garry Kasparov, one of the most brilliant minds of his generation. The machine, Deep Blue, a hulking IBM computer that could evaluate 200 million chess positions per second. In 1997, it became the first machine to beat a reigning world champion in a full match. Now, I remember this clearly. People always said computers will never beat a human at chess. And then one did. Not just a human, not just a grandmaster, but Kasparov, at the time thought to be perhaps the greatest chess player who ever lived. It felt like a turning point. After his loss, Kasparov didn't just walk away quietly. He was furious and suspicious. He claimed that some of Deep Blue's moves, especially in Game 2, were too creative and too human to be the result of brute force calculation alone. He suspected that IBM's team may have had human grandmasters feeding moves to the machine during the match, violating the agreed upon rules. He said it was an incredible and extremely deep combination that no machine should be able to see. He demanded access to Deep Blue's logs and inner workings, and IBM refused. Then, not long after the match, IBM dismantled Deep Blue and never allowed a rematch. That only fueled the conspiracy theory. Kasparov famously said, "I lost to a machine, but not to a computer." He believed he'd lost to a team of humans hiding behind the machine, not the machine itself. However, 2017, he later wrote in the book Deep Thinking, "I was fighting the last war. Deep Blue was not intelligent, but it was fast, accurate, and didn't get tired or scared." The age of machine intelligence was dawning, or so we thought. Because what Deep Blue actually represented wasn't intelligence. As Kasparov later said, Deep Blue was intelligent the way your alarm clock is intelligent. This was symbolic AI, logic, rules, and raw computational force crafted by teams of grandmasters and engineers. Deep Blue didn't understand chess, it just calculated faster than any human could. And yet, in the eyes of the public, it was the birth of thinking machines. Fast forward to 2011. IBM did it again. This time, the battlefield wasn't a chessboard, it was a television quiz show. Jeopardy is an American game show that's been on the air since the 1960s. It's famous and weird. Contestants are given answers and must respond in the form of a question. The host might say, "This US state's name is derived from a Native American word meaning great river." The contestant would have to answer, "What is Mississippi?" But it's more than trivia. Jeopardy tests pun recognition, obscure references, wordplay, and buzzer speed. It's fast, it's human, and the champions, like Ken Jennings, aren't just smart, they're quick-witted and fluent in nuance. So when IBM introduced Watson, a computer designed to beat them at Jeopardy, it wasn't just another AI stunt, it was a public demonstration that machines could now process language, context, jokes, and ambiguity. And in 2011, Watson did just that. It destroyed its human opponents. For IBM, this was the sequel to Deep Blue, only this time the stakes weren't chess, they were everything. After Jeopardy, IBM promised that Watson wasn't just a game show novelty, it was the future of work, medicine, and decision making. They rolled out glossy ads and corporate demos. Doctors would use Watson to treat cancer. Lawyers would use it to scan cases. Customer service would be handled by intelligent chatbots. Sound familiar? This wasn't just AI, this was practical AI. Applied, real world, intelligent assistance for professionals. But behind the scenes, Watson wasn't magic. Watson was a mix of technologies. It used natural language processing to pass questions, large databases of structured and unstructured information, confidence scoring to choose the best answer, and a lot of human tuned logic to make it all come together. Every new domain Watson entered required teams of engineers to manually train it. You couldn't just install Watson at a hospital. You hired IBM to build you a custom Watson, like commissioning bespoke software from scratch. This wasn't scalable. It wasn't plug and play. It was more of a consulting gig than a product. Still, IBM went big on one domain in particular: healthcare. IBM partnered with top hospitals like Memorial Sloan Kettering to build Watson for oncology. The pitch? Watson would read every cancer study ever written and help doctors select the best treatment plans faster and more accurately than a human could. It sounded revolutionary, but leaked internal documents painted a darker picture. Watson was mostly parroting suggestions from a narrow team of doctors. It wasn't actually learning from new data, and in some cases it gave dangerously bad advice. The hospitals quietly pulled back. The media stopped covering it. By 2022, Watson Health was shut down and sold off. IBM never delivered on the promise, and by the time they tried to pivot, it was too late. While IBM was busy branding everything Watson, Watson Assistant, Watson Analytics, Watson Ads, the real AI revolution was happening elsewhere. Deep learning, neural networks. And then, in 2017, the invention of the transformer model, developed at Google, not IBM. By the time GPT-3 dropped in 2020, Watson already looked obsolete. By the time ChatGPT hit the scene in 2022, Watson wasn't even in the conversation. IBM's AI was still tied to old school logic, symbolic AI, while OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic were shipping black box language models that could write essays, generate code, pass legal exams, simulate conversations, and scale across domains instantly. Watson had a brand, but the future had moved on. Symbolic AI, or GoFi, good old-fashioned AI, is how we used to think machines would reason. You hand them rules, definitions, logical structures. You want an AI to know what a cat is? You define it. If X has fur, purrs, and chases mice, X is a cat. It worked in narrow domains, medical expert systems, legal logic, chess. But symbolic AI is brittle. It can't handle uncertainty, ambiguity, or messy inputs. And it doesn't learn. It's frozen in the rules you give it. That's what Watson was, an advanced symbolic system with some machine learning bolted on. It couldn't evolve, and when deep learning exploded, it got left behind. But here's the twist. The same LLMs that replaced symbolic AI are now being used to rebuild it. Today, you can ask an LLM to write an expert system, build a logic engine, translate a medical guideline into a rule-based system, create transparent, explainable AI for regulated industries. LLMs are black boxes, but they can generate white box systems. Suddenly, the brittle logic of GoFi can be spun up on demand, and that matters because in sectors like law, medicine, and government, black box AI isn't trusted. You need auditability, transparency, a trail of logic you can verify. We might be entering a hybrid future, using LLMs to handle messy data, language, creativity, and using symbolic systems to encode values, rules, compliance, and reasoning. Neural nets do the thinking, symbolic logic explains the answer. The consensus in the AI research community is that the future of advanced AI lies in the successful fusion of neural and symbolic approaches. While purely data driven LLMs have demonstrated impressive capabilities, their integration with symbolic reasoning is seen as the crucial step towards creating more robust, trustworthy, and intelligent systems. Watson had the funding, the brain power, the brand. It beat champions. It had the world's attention. It could have led the AI revolution, but IBM made a fatal error. They confused a public demo with a product. They mistook symbolic logic for intelligence, and they failed to pivot when the ground shifted. So, yes, Watson won Jeopardy, but it never made it to final Jeopardy. The real game was still to come, and the next generation of machines rewrote the rules.
That was
And it
brilliant.
reminds me, as an ex Microsoft guy, the last time IBM missed the boat, which was the PC revolution, right?
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
twice they've missed the boat now in 40
Yeah, and
years.
and I don't even know if IBM, they sold off their computer division and they're sort of a quasi consulting firm now, aren't they? Am I misinterpreting that?
Yeah, no, they sold off
To
to
Lenovo.
Lenovo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
side of
was
the business.
really well written, Cam, and it really explains a lot. And it was a perfect way to finish off where we started. And I think that hybrid model is really the future. The idea of using a black box to build a white box system that we can see and understand is going to be really important. The combination of symbolic and neural network or LLM models to make up that takeoff and landing problem is really great. And where you started, they were fast, intelligent, and didn't get scared. That's a really interesting thing for the corporate and where we are with AI overlapping work and what the future looks like. You know, who's going to get scared? Who's going to go fast and make mistakes and who isn't? And the idea that a symbolic system is frozen in the rules that you give it. And I think that humans face the same problem. Many of us are frozen in the rules that we were given, and all of those rules in life and in technology are about to change.